I'm 42. Married for 12 years. 2 kids, a mortgage, a dog that sheds everywhere. The boring, normal life I used to think was unbreakable. I'm writing this because I can't sleep anymore, and when I do, I replay the same moment over and over like my brain is trying to punish me. Before everything blew up, life felt fine. Not perfect, but steady. My wife, Elle, and I had routines. Coffee in the morning, texts about groceries, arguing about stupid stuff like whose turn it was to do laundry. I trusted her without thinking about it. That kind of trust where you don't even realize it's there until it's gone. She worked part-time and handled most of the kids' logistics. I worked long hours. We both complained we were tired. I thought that was just adulthood. Looking back, I can see how comfortable I was. How blind. I believe that because we'd been through hard things before, job losses, a miscarriage, money stress, we were solid. I believed history protected us. The day it started unraveling felt completely ordinary. That's the part that messes with me the most. No dramatic music. No warning. Just a regular weekday and a phone call that didn't get answered. I still remember thinking, that's weird, and then brushing it off. I had no idea that was the last moment of my life before everything split in two, before and after. Elle's car had been making a grinding noise for weeks. She finally took it to a service station near her work. Same place she'd used a few times before. She texted me that morning, dropping the car off. Might take a while. Around noon, I tried calling her to ask if she could pick up the kids later. No answer. I figured she was busy or her phone was on silent. An hour passed. Then another. I called again. Straight to voicemail. That's when the unease started creeping in. Not panic yet. Just that tight feeling in your chest you try to ignore. I told myself I was being dramatic. She's an adult. She doesn't need to answer every call. But then I remembered she'd said the mechanic would call her when the car was ready. She's usually glued to her phone in situations like that. I texted. No reply. I hate admitting this, but my mind didn't jump to cheating. It jumped to accidents. Car fell off a lift. Phone lost. Some stupid Final Destination scenario. So I grabbed my keys and drove to the service station, telling myself I'd feel stupid for worrying. The place was small. 1 office, 2 open bays. Her car was there. That should have calmed me down. Instead, I saw her through the open bay door. She was standing close to the mechanic. Too close. His hand was on her waist. Her head tilted up. And then she kissed him. I didn't process it right away. My brain stalled, like it refused to load the image properly. It felt unreal, like watching someone else's life through glass. They weren't just brushing lips. It was familiar. Comfortable. His hand moved like it had done that before. She didn't pull away. She leaned in. I remember thinking, this is wrong. I'm not supposed to be seeing this. Like I'd walked in on something private that wasn't meant for me, which is a messed up thought considering she was my wife. I don't remember opening the door, but suddenly I was there. The bell above the office door rang. Loud. Sharp. They jumped apart like teenagers caught by a teacher. Her face strained of color. The mechanic stepped back immediately, hands up, like this was somehow a misunderstanding he could escape. Hey, I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was calm in a way that scared me. Why aren't you answering your phone? I asked her, like that was the real issue. She stammered my name. The mechanic mumbled something about checking paperwork and disappeared into the back. We just stood there. The smell of oil and metal made me nauseous. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. Finally, she said, "It's not what it looks like." I actually laughed. A short, broken sound. Because of course she said that. Of all the things she could have said, she picked the most cliché lie in human history. I asked her how long. She didn't answer. Silence can scream. That's something I learned that day. I asked again, slower. How long? She started crying immediately. Big, gasping sobs. People in the waiting area stared. I didn't care. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped me out. It just happened, she said. I swear. It doesn't mean anything. I pointed toward the bay. You don't kiss someone like that if it doesn't mean anything. Then came the excuse that still haunts me because of how absurd it was. He gives me discounts, she said. On the repairs. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't want things to get expensive. I just stared at her. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part wanted to understand, to grab onto anything that made this less devastating. So you kissed him, I said. To save money. She nodded, crying harder, like that explanation should make it okay. I walked out. I didn't trust myself to stay. I sat in my car and shook. I remember gripping the steering wheel until my hands hurt, trying not to throw up. She followed me outside, begging me to talk. I drove away. On the drive home, my phone buzzed nonstop. Apologies. Explanations. Please. I love you. It was stupid. Every message felt like salt in an open wound. I kept thinking about the way she leaned into him. How natural it looked. That wasn't a first kiss. That night was chaos. The kids were at a friend's house, thank God. Elle came home and tried to act like we could just talk this out. She swore it wasn't an affair. Said the mechanic flirted, she felt flattered, things escalated. Claimed it was only physical once. Claimed it didn't mean anything. I asked her if she thought I was an idiot. She got angry at that. Turned it around on me. Said I was never home. Said she felt invisible. Said she didn't think I'd react like this. Like my reaction was the problem. I asked to see her phone. She hesitated just a second too long. Then handed it over. There were messages. Not explicit, but intimate. Inside jokes. Complaints about me. Compliments about her body. Plans to check the car again, even though the repairs were done. She tried to grab the phone back. I told her to stop. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling, feeling my chest cave in. Every message rewrote my memories. Every late repair suddenly made sense. When I looked up, she was crying again, saying she didn't want to lose me. I realized something then that scared me more than the cheating. I didn't know if I still wanted her. The days after felt like living in a fog. I went to work and stared at my screen. People talked to me and I nodded like I understood. Inside, I was unraveling. At night, I lay next to her, rigid, staring at the ceiling. She tried to touch me once. I flinched. She pulled away like I'd slapped her. I kept replaying the scene at the service station. The angle of her head. The confidence in the kiss. I wondered how many times I'd been sitting at home with the kids while she was there with him. She insisted she'd cut contact. Swore she'd never go back. I wanted to believe her so badly it hurt. But trust doesn't come back because someone says sorry. I started questioning everything. Had she cheated before? Was I enough? Did everyone know except me? I felt stupid. Exposed. The kids noticed something was wrong. They asked why Mom and Dad were quiet. I lied and said work was stressful. I hated myself for lying, but I hated the truth more. One night, she admitted she liked the attention. That she felt desired. That hit harder than the kiss. Because it meant this wasn't just about him. It was about something missing between us, and I didn't know how, or if, I could fill it anymore. We tried counseling. That was her idea. I agreed because I didn't know what else to do. Sitting in that room, hearing her talk about feeling unseen, I felt like I was being put on trial. I owned my flaws. I worked too much. I was tired. I took things for granted. But I didn't cheat. Every session ended with me feeling raw and exposed, while she seemed lighter, like confessing absolved her. Friends noticed the distance. I made excuses. I didn't want pity. I didn't want advice. I just wanted the noise in my head to stop. I drove past the service station once and had to pull over. I threw up on the side of the road. That's when I realized how deep this went. She asked me one night if I still loved her. I didn't answer right away. That silence hurt her. I could see it. But lying would have hurt us both more. I don't know, I said. She cried herself to sleep. I stayed awake, wondering how love could disappear without fully leaving. The worst part was the self-doubt. Wondering if I was overreacting. People cheat and stay together all the time, right? Maybe I was weak for not being able to move past it. But then I'd remember the kiss. The lies. The way she blamed money, stress, me. I started having panic attacks. Random moments where my heart raced and my hands went numb. I'd never had that before. She wanted reassurance. Wanted me to say we'd be okay. I couldn't give her that. One night during an argument she said, "It was just a kiss." I snapped. Yelled louder than I ever had. Told her it wasn't just anything. Told her she broke something in me I wasn't sure could be fixed. She looked shocked, like she hadn't realized the damage was that deep. That's when I knew we were living in different realities. For her, it was a mistake. For me, it was an earthquake. Eventually, the kids started asking harder questions. Why Mom cried so much? Why Dad slept on the couch? We told them we were taking space. That word felt cowardly, but it was all I could manage. I moved into the guest room. Then, a month later, into a small apartment nearby. I told myself it was temporary. She begged me not to go. Promised therapy, transparency, anything. Walking out of that house felt like ripping off my own skin. But staying felt worse. Alone, the silence was deafening. No kids laughing. No routine. Just me and my thoughts. Some nights I missed her desperately. Other nights I felt relief. That scared me. I realized I wasn't just grieving the marriage. I was grieving the version of myself who believed we were safe. People chose sides without meaning to. Some told me to forgive. Others told me to run. I didn't want advice. I wanted certainty. She kept texting. Updates about the kids. About her feelings. About how much she regretted everything. I asked her once if she missed him. She hesitated. Again. That was answer enough. Trust doesn't die loudly. It erodes grain by grain, until there's nothing left to stand on. The divorce process dragged on longer than I expected, not because we were fighting, but because neither of us wanted to fully accept that this was really happening. It felt like hovering over the edge of a cliff, afraid to jump but unable to step back. Meetings with lawyers were quiet and painfully polite. We discussed assets, schedules, holidays, all in neutral tones that didn't match the wreckage underneath. The hardest part was telling the kids. We rehearsed it with a therapist, sat them down together, and used all the right words. This isn't your fault. We both love you. We'll always be your parents. They nodded, asked practical questions, and then later I heard my youngest crying in her room. That sound broke something in me that still hasn't healed. We settled on shared custody. Seeing my children only half the time felt unnatural, like breathing with one lung. The house felt wrong without them. Their room stayed untouched for weeks because I couldn't stand the finality of packing anything away. Elle and I became careful versions of ourselves. No jokes. No warmth. Just logistics. School pickups. Doctor appointments. Who has them for Thanksgiving? Sometimes she tried to talk about us, about whether there was still a chance. I shut that down, not because I was angry, but because I didn't trust my own weakness. The day the divorce was finalized, I sat alone in my car afterward and cried. Not loud, dramatic sobs. Just quiet tears sliding down my face. 12 years reduced to signatures and stamped papers. It wasn't the ending I ever imagined, but it was the only one I could survive. After the divorce, people assumed things would get easier. Like pain has an expiration date. In some ways, the intensity faded, but what replaced it was a dull, constant ache. A low-level sadness that followed me everywhere. I tried to build a routine. Gym in the mornings. Work. Cooking real meals instead of eating junk. On the outside, I looked functional. Inside, I felt disconnected from everything. I attempted dating after about 6 months. Friends encouraged me, said I deserved happiness. I created a profile, went on a few dates, smiled at the right moments. But every woman felt like a risk I wasn't prepared to take. If someone didn't reply right away, my chest tightened. If they mentioned a male friend, my mind spiraled. I hated that version of myself, suspicious, guarded, afraid. One woman touched my arm during dinner, and my first instinct was to pull away. Not because I didn't like her, but because intimacy felt dangerous. I realized then that I wasn't lonely for a partner. I was grieving safety. Therapy became less about the divorce and more about me. About why I tied my sense of security so tightly to another person. About why betrayal felt like annihilation instead of heartbreak. Some days I made progress. Other days I felt like I was back at the service station, watching my life crack open. Healing wasn't linear. It still isn't. There are nights when my brain won't let the past stay buried. I replay moments with new understanding. The late errands. The sudden attention to her appearance. The way she guarded her phone. All the signs I dismissed because trusting her felt easier than questioning reality. I torture myself with hypotheticals. If I hadn't driven to the service station, would she have stopped? Would she have confessed? Or would it have grown into something bigger, something uglier? Sometimes I envy the version of me who didn't know. He was naive, sure, but he slept better. He didn't flinch at silence. He didn't analyze every memory for hidden meaning. But then I remember that ignorance isn't peace, it's just delayed pain. Knowing the truth destroyed my marriage, but it also saved me from living in a lie. I remind myself of that when regret creeps in. Still, there are days when I'd give anything to unsee that kiss. To go back to believing my life was solid. Truth is heavy. It changes how you see everything that came before it. And once you see it, you can't look away. I've had to confront the complicated truth that I don't hate Elle. I've tried. Anger would be easier. Hatred would give me something solid to push against. But what I feel is grief mixed with disappointment. I miss the person I thought she was. I miss the marriage I believed in. I miss the version of myself who felt chosen. We co-parent now. We sit next to each other at school events, careful and distant. Sometimes I catch glimpses of the woman I loved in the way she laughs with the kids. It hurts, but it also reminds me that our story wasn't fake. It just ended badly. People want clean narratives. A villain. A hero. Real life doesn't work that way. She made a choice that shattered us, but she's still human. I hold space for that, even when it hurts. Forgiveness, I've learned, doesn't mean reconciliation. It means letting go of the fantasy that things could have been different if you'd just done something better. I didn't fail because I trusted. She failed because she broke that trust. Both truths coexist. I'm writing this now, years later, because the memory still lives in my body. A certain smell of motor oil. A ringing bell on a door. Silence after unanswered calls. That moment reshaped how I love, how I trust, how I see myself. I'm more cautious now. More aware. Maybe a little broken. But also more honest. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that betrayal doesn't just hurt, it rearranges you. You don't go back to who you were. You build something new from the wreckage. Some days I feel strong. Other days I feel like I'm still standing in that service station, watching my life split open. I don't know if I'll ever fully heal. Maybe healing isn't about erasing pain, but learning how to carry it without letting it define you. This is my truth. I don't share it for sympathy or validation. I share it because silence kept me trapped for too long. And because pretending it didn't change me would be the final lie.